We are back. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I'm Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Conversations with Selwyn. Tonight's conversation is with the gentleman next to me, Brian Luvar.
Good evening, people. Hello.
Brian, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Brian,
it took me a while to get here, but I'm here.
Yes, it's good to have you here.
Thank you.
If you were not a filmmaker, photographer, videographer, what would you be doing?
Making license plates. I honestly believe that I'd be making license plates. I probably would be incarcerated.
Really?
Because that was the path I was on. Like, I always had one foot in creativity and one foot in the hood. Mm-hmm. And growing up, the hood was very much pulling me. But for the grace of God, my ancestors, my sister, mm-hmm. my guardian angel, my great-grandmother, they kept me grounded, kept me on the right side of the fence. Because every time I would go a little too far, mm-hmm. an opportunity would come up to say, okay, how about this? Try this. And I never really wanted to be a thug. Mm-hmm. It was just my surroundings. Mm-hmm. And not having too many male figures, like my father wasn't around. And my brothers, they were doing them. So not having too many male figures around to, connect to, I connected to the street. I connected to, the hustlers and, the gangsters. Like I adapted that lifestyle, but it wasn't what my heart wanted. Mm-hmm. It was just like, if you're a vegetarian and you're starving and there's a piece of chicken in front of you, it's like, what are you gonna do? You gonna starve or you gonna eat that piece of chicken? Mm-hmm. I ate the chicken sometimes.
You've been in this game, the photography video game, for over 20 years. I understand. How important is the right attitude to get to be successful in this industry?
I practice humility. I'm humble. Mm-hmm. A lot of people tell me how good or great I am. I don't necessarily see it. I'm just doing what I do. I'm just doing something that I love. To be successful, I really can't answer that because I don't feel that I am successful. But I am. Mm-hmm. And I think just my humility and being humble helps me to continue to be successful because I don't let it get to my head. In the field that I started out in, music video, I got into music videos coming straight out of the street. It was easy for me. I've always had an eye. Like as a kid, I could recreate Fred Flintstone. I could recreate Bugs Bunny. I was a drawer. I could do art. I was a recreator. Mm-hmm. So I always had my hand in the arts. And when I was a kid, my sister gave me a challenge. She said, write a book. I was like, how am I gonna write a book? She says, think of a story that you would want to tell and write a book. And I wrote a book at like 8 years old. And
what was the name of it?
Oh man, what was the name of the book? It was a sci-fi book. And I can't remember the exact title, but it was about a young guy who was a warrior. Mm-hmm. On the spaceship. He was the youngest kid. He was like a kid, Luke Skywalker. And this was before Star Wars had come out.
At 8 years old?
Yeah.
Wow.
She gave me a challenge. She bought me a book, a little diary book, and up until a couple of years ago when I moved back to New York, mm-hmm. I couldn't find the book.
Tell me something. You mentioned your grandmother as mm-hmm. your guardian angel. You mentioned your mom mm-hmm. and your sister. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are three women, and three, to me, the sense that I get, are very strong women in your life.
Yes. Yeah.
In your own words, of how have women played a role in your life and how you look at life?
I honor women. Mm-hmm. I honor them. I put them on pedestals. The women in my life made me who I am because I didn't have a father. Mm-hmm. My mother and my two older sisters basically taught me how to be a man. To this day, and I don't forget, but if I was to be in another world, and she will stand there until I open the door for her. She taught me that. She raised me that way, to open the door, to honor your elders and honor the women in your life, because that's who I grew up around. Like my mother, she never had a revolving door with men coming in and out of the house. There was probably one or two men that were familiar to, you know, our household. And I understand it now, because there are women that I've had relationships with for years, and you know, I see that was how my mother was, and those men became uncles. So you know, that respect level is like, you could not spend the night. You come in at a decent hour, you leave at a decent hour. Like I said, there was no revolving door. And my sister, my oldest sister, she left the house when she was 16, so she became strong at a young age and made her own way, and I admired that. Like, she would come around, and it was like, when my sister came, it was like Christmas, because one, she was a model back in the days, and she was, oh my gosh, she was beautiful. There's this one picture of my sister that I wish I had. She had the big Angela Davis afro, and she had on this long red dress.
Stunning, right?
Yeah. If you see Naomi Campbell and those women, my sister invented fly.
For those who hardly know you, where were you born? I know you alluded to your upbringing, but give us a glimpse into your life at 9 years old and at 16.
Terror. My relationship with my mom wasn't the best. So I craved attention. And because my mom was doing her thing, she worked 2 and 3 jobs to support the family, to support a household. You know, we didn't grow up in the projects. We didn't grow up in the worst area. Like where me and my brother and sisters, we grew up in a very upper middle class area. But the outlining blocks and streets to get to that little hub was terror. So like my sister, she would get me into a lot of artistic things like acting and piano playing and martial arts and stuff like that I loved. I like, yes, I'm doing this, but when you have to walk 3 blocks of terror to 1 block of peace, it's like walking through a minefield. So I can't come from tap dancing with tap dance shoes on my shoulder. I get my ass beat. So I had to adapt to that, and then with adapting to that, wanting the love and attention from my mom that she wasn't able to give me because she was doing her, I would act out a lot. So I got into a lot of trouble in school because I was a little chubby. I didn't want people to make fun of me, so I became a bully, and I was bullying kids. But it was weird because I was a funny bully. Like, I was a class clown, but as they say now, I could set it off. So I had kind of like a following. Like, people would always, like, you know, the kids would always like follow me, and you know, I was semi-popular. Like, oh, like my nickname was Black. Oh, that's Black. All the teachers knew me. And the thing was, I was intelligent. Like, one of the things that I really appreciate about my upbringing, my mom, on Sundays, everybody in the neighborhood thought we were bougie, thought we were rich, because my mother raised us a certain way. We could not eat fried chicken, because that's ghetto food. We didn't eat grits, like none of that. We didn't eat Wonder Bread. We had Entenmann's. We had home fried whole wheat. We didn't eat bologna, Oscar Mayer. Like, my mother kind of said, because we are in the ghetto, we don't have to be of the ghetto. So on Sundays, she would make us read a story out of the New York Times, and that helped my vocabulary. That helped me in English. And social studies were my 2 favorite subjects. So, you know, just those kind of tools she gave us. And one of the other things that I tell people, and they think it's like really wow, my mother used to put me my brother and my niece, God rest her, in the car on a Saturday. She would make a little lunch for us, and she would drive us to the airport. And we were always like, oh, we're going somewhere. We get ready to go on a trip. And we would go to the international terminal, and my mother would pick up pamphlets of different countries. And we would look on the board, see what plane was leaving, at what time, and then we would go to that gate. We would watch the plane take off, and my mother would read us about that country. And that was how, I get emotional talking about this.
Wow.
And that was how we learned about different stuff. We learned about things outside of the neighborhood. And even in the summer, she would not let us stay on the block. She would say, yo, y'all going down south. Y'all going somewhere else. I don't want you to be in the city for the summer. And we were like, no, we're going to miss the block parties and all the fun. But in retrospect, when you look back, it was a way to take us outside of the normal. And people always thought we were rich. And it's like, we wasn't rich. I found out at a late age that we were on welfare. We had food stamps. But my mother, one of the things she said, you never have to wear your troubles on your sleeve so everybody will see it. Roll your sleeve up, but make it neat, you know. So at that age, I left my mother's house at 14 years old. And that's kind of like a staple with my family. My sister left at 16. My other sister left at, I think, 13 or 15. And I left at 14. And I was out on my own for a while.
Where do you think this desire, or what do you think was it, where do you think this desire to leave early comes from, or came from?
My mother had a saying, and she embedded this in our head. When you get your own, you could do what you want to do.
So it was a desire to do what you want to do.
She said, as long as you're under my roof, you go by my rules.
I'm curious about your sister, the one who introduced you to dancing and martial arts and all these things. How much older than you is she?
She's watching, so I'm not gonna say.
All right, all right. But here's what I'm curious
she's
about.
My older sister. I love her. She's. I call her my mom.
But she had to have been very young at the time when. So what I'm trying to get at is her level of maturity and responsibility and love.
She just from her story, she had to grow up quick.
Wow.
She had to grow up quick. There were just certain situations that were going on in the home that she decided, like, I'm not gonna take this anymore. Like, if I want to live and if I want to survive, I gotta leave this space. And I think I get a lot of my strength from her.
From your sister.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. If there's a connection between your filmmaking or photography and freedom, how would you describe it?
It is freedom. To be able to do what I love. A lot of people don't do what they love. And sitting here speaking out loud about this, I see a lot of connections. Like I said earlier, my mother, she worked 2, 3, sometimes 4 jobs at a time. She never liked any of them. But her job was to maintain a roof, food, and clothing. That was her job. So she had to do that. But within doing that, she was never happy. Like, she had a dream, and because, you know, the situations in the household when she was growing up with my grandparents, she had to forego her dream. And she wanted to be a doctor or a nurse. I think she really wanted to be a doctor, and she wanted to travel the world. She wanted to go to Paris, and I really I'm mad that I was never able to take her to Paris while she was here. And in watching her get up and go to work to a job that she hated and come home and then be frustrated and then sometimes take it out on us, I said, well, I don't want to do that. I want to do something that I love and be happy, because my mother wasn't happy. So I want to be happy. So being happy is freedom to me. Like, yeah, there are struggling times.
Right.
But then there are those great times when I'm working, when I got a project and the money is exactly what I asked for, and I'm being creative, and I don't have to wake up every day at the same time to leave the house at the same time to walk down the same block to get on the same train with the same people to get off the same stop to walk up the same stairs to go in the same building to sit at the same desk to look at my clock to eat lunch at the same time to get out of work the same time to do that 7 days a week for 40 years. I think that's insanity, especially if it's something that you don't love. Now, if you love it, if you love your job, if you're an accountant, if you're a dishwasher, and you love doing it, I applaud you. But there's so many people that, you know, they get caught up in materialism, and they want to keep up with the Joneses, or they want to have, they don't want to be looked at as a bum or poor, so they go outside of themselves to make sure they have, and they take these jobs that they're miserable. Like, I know people that work at corrections, bus drivers, city workers that hate it. And I always ask the question, I was like, if all your bills were paid, you didn't have to worry about money, and you've traveled all over the place, because most people say, I travel. So if you didn't have to worry about any of that, what would you do? 90% of them can't answer.
They can't answer that.
They can't answer.
You know, I'm curious about your photography. Take us on a little journey. Have you ever saw a subject and you click, and then when you look at the reproduction, I mean, if I say film, I'll be dated here, but if when you look at the photo afterwards, you see something totally different. Has that ever happened to you? And not totally different, but you see something that you didn't see before.
A lot of times, like, I can take some photographs now and do what I do. I love the editing process. I love the color correction. I love to make it look like what I see in my head. That's the most fun that I have about photography, making it look exactly the way I see it in my mind's eye. So I can do a project and love it, put it away, but then come back to it weeks later, months later, a year later, and then look at it and go, oh wow, I didn't see that. Then I'd go back in and redo it and then put it out again. And it's just the artist's perspective. It's like, art is subjective. Like, there's a lot of times when you create your composition, you're looking for a certain thing. You're creating it to get a certain thing. And within that certain thing, say you're focusing on a woman. Say it's the photograph is of a woman, and she has beautiful eyes. So you're concentrating on the eyes, but you compose it in a way that there's something in the background, or there's something on this side of her face, or there's something there that you don't really notice in the first setting. But then when you go back to it, it's like, oh wow, I didn't notice that her lips were like this, or her face is like this or like that. So it's the perception that you have at the moment, and then when you can go back to it, you see something different, and then you could build on it. I love the creative process.
What is your favorite memory of your mother as a child? See you smiling there, man.
Yeah, it's funny though. And it's welling me up. The favorite memory is when me and my brother, we were in Little League baseball, and my mom, their mothers were on different teams, and my mother, one of the ladies on the block, her son was on a team, so she was a mother on a different team than my mom. So she got up to bat and hit a fly ball, and to see my mother run to catch the ball, and she slipped on the grass, and fell. But then she raised her hand up and like, I still got the ball. Like that's one of the best memories that I think about of my mom. And then another one is there's a picture of my mom in her wedding dress. This is one of the most beautiful pictures I've ever seen in my life. And it's like an old school wedding picture, black and white. She had the dress, it was laid out and came around in a circle. She was standing up proud, real pretty, real beautiful. I was like, wow, that's wow. A wedding photo. And I think subconsciously that's why I'm interested and I like wedding photography, because to create something memorable like that for people to, you know, like it's what 40, 50 some odd years since my mom took that photo, maybe even more, maybe 60 years since my mom took that photo. And to look at it now, I have it in my bedroom on my dresser, to look at, see it every morning, to look at it, to say, wow, that's timeless.
Yes.
That's what that's one of the things that I really like.
When did you get interested in photography, and what do you remember about your first camera?
I got interested in photography like from a kid. Like I've always loved pictures. Like I would just look at pictures in magazines. Magazines were the favorite for me. Like again, my mother used to get Time and Life delivered to the house. Like she'd have the little plastic open it up Time. So I used to go through the pictures of Time magazine. I was like, wow. Like just to see different parts of the world and different people interacting and those type of things. I've always loved the image. I didn't get my first camera until, wow, probably 1995, 96, and it was a Canon film camera, and I took some really decent pictures with it, but it wasn't the passion that it is now. It was like the one reason that I purchased the camera from doing music videos. I was always curious to lighting and how my DPs would light things and why they would put a light here and what was this scrim for, what was this diffusion for, and how do you do this and how do you do that. Like a lot of directors coming up when I would go to other directors' sets, when they're setting and lighting a scene, the directors are just chilling in their chair being a director. Like me, I was always up under the DP and the gaffer like asking questions. So long story short, a lot of the DPs, Baron Claiborne, Malik Saeed, oh man, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Well, a lot of the DPs, they kept telling me, it's like, B, you should take pictures. You should learn how to shoot. And I was like, But it's like, no, it will strengthen your eye as a director, and you'll learn how to light, and you'll have more knowledge of your set. So, you know, after being told that a few times, I picked up the camera. I picked up a couple of books. I'm self-taught. I've never taken a class in photography. I've just read books, been on the internet, watched videos, and trial and error. One of the things that made it a little bit easier is coming from the film game and television and watching these magnificent people do it. So I kind of had a sense of what to do, and I knew what I wanted to see. So I just had to kind of figure out how to do it. And now the two best things to me about photography is lighting and post-production, because I could get it the way I want in camera, but then I could tweak it in post. And
wow. Tell us about the making of The World Is Yours remix, the video you did from Nas.
Wow.
I know it's a while back, but
guys, he did his research.
I have to, brother.
That was a fluke. Like, I'm gonna go back and lead up to that. The way I got into the film game and music videos was interesting. I tell people I fell into the game because I was walking down the street. I didn't have a job. I was trying to find something to do, and I tripped over some wires. And when I looked up, like Fab Five Freddy was like, "Yo, but you all right?" He helped me up, and he's like, "Are you one of the PAs?" And I was like, "Yeah." I didn't even know what PA meant. So I walked in on the set with him, and it just blew my mind. The lights, the cameras. One of my favorite rappers. It was his video, Coogee rapping Polo. Excuse me. Long story short, by the end of the night, Fab had requested that I drive him home. So I'm driving him down the West Side Highway, and he's we're talking, and we have a lot in common. We're both from Brooklyn. He's from Bed-Stuy. I'm from Bushwick, and that wasn't too far apart. He did graffiti. He was, you know, Fab Five Freddy, and I was a budding graffiti artist.
Brian, hold that thought. Let's take a quick break. I want you to continue that story. I'm just seeing some things here with the bandwidth. Let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, I want you to pick up from there.
Cool.
All right, cool. We are back with Brian Luvar. Yes, Brian. Sorry about that. Continue.
So, after driving Fab home, and realized we had a lot in common, and I guess he considered me a cool dude. He had asked me to be his personal assistant. He said, "Yo, I'm getting a car in a couple of weeks, but I don't drive. So would you mind?" And I was like, "You paying?" He's like, "Yeah, I'll pay you with PA rate." And I was like, "Okay." So for the next couple of years, I was Fab's assistant, and it was one of the greatest times of my life. Working with him, I got to meet a lot of stars. I got to learn a lot about the music video business. I got to learn a lot about filmmaking in general. I got a part in New Jack City because of Fab. He was one of the associate producers, and I was his assistant. So one day, and my brother joked with me about this the other day online. One day I came to work on the set with a really nice velour sweatsuit that I had borrowed from my brother. And the producers, George Jackson, he's like, "That's what he should wear. That's what G Money should wear. Get that sweatsuit." So they bought the sweatsuit from me and gave me a part in the movie.
Are you serious?
Like, yeah. So in the basketball scene, when G Money makes the shot, the green velour sweatsuit he has on was mine.
That was yours?
Yeah. So and years after that, you know, I would write some treatments for Fab, and I was his AD, and I did a short film out of my own pocket, and I let him see it. He was like, "Oh man, you did this?" I was like,
"The same guy?"
Yeah, Fab. I did a short film, and I let him see it. He's like, "You did this?" I said, "Yeah, I wrote it. You know, I got the equipment and I shot it," and he was impressed. So an opportunity came up where the Nas, the rapper, he was just coming out, real popular. Fab got in touch with him, and he was to do one of his videos, but they wanted Fab to do 2 videos. Fab couldn't do the other one, so he told me, he's like, "Hey, you want to do a Nas video?" And I thought he was bullying me, but I just thought he wanted me to write a treatment for it. So long story short, I wrote the treatment. He got me on the phone with Nas. I went to Queensbridge and hung out with Nas. Nas was like, "Yo, you real cool. I want you to do my video." Went to the record label, met the record label people, and next thing you know, I'm directed a music video.
That was it.
And that was it. And like from there, from working on sets and working in production companies, I saw the mechanics of the production company, and the first music video I did, I formed my own company. I was like, okay, well, they make this money, they make this money. and I'm only getting this money. Why can't I get all the money? And I partnered up with a friend, an associate, and we formed a company. And for the next 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, we produced our own music videos. And the first company was Rebecca Filmworks, named after my grandmother. My second company was Grandma's Watching, and that's where I'm at now.
Grandma's Watching. Yeah. Oh, that's so appropriate, right? Yeah. You've made videos for the likes of New Edition, Missy Elliott, Gangstar, Blackstreet, Uncle Luke, Casey and JoJo. They're all very talented artists, but how do you manage to stay grounded?
One of the reasons is my grandmother.
Or again.
Yeah, she was no nonsense. And one of the reasons I'm where I'm at now is because she told me something at probably I was 5 or 6. And we used to have to go to church with my grandmother from Brooklyn all the way to the South Bronx, taking the train every Sunday morning. And I was a little clown as a kid. I knew how to do impressions. So I would do impressions on the train as on that long hour and a half, 2 hour ride to the Bronx. And one thing about my grandmother, you know, I'm on the train doing Elvis Presley and Mom's Mabley. I was like doing my own little comedy shows on the train. And one thing my grandmother never did, she never hit me or disciplined me and told me stop making a fool of yourself or stop being silly. She let me be.
And you appreciated that.
And she one day, I remember on the train, I was doing an Elvis Presley impersonation. I was dancing like Elvis Presley and the whole train was clapping. And she pulled me close and said, she said, "You gonna be something special." And that always stuck in my head.
Wow.
And throughout the whole journey, she watches over me. Like I said, I could be locked up. There were situations where I was in a bad situation. I was in a bad space where one inch turn to the right, I'd have been dead. Inch turn to the left, I'd have been locked up for 20, 30 years. And that tug, and she, you know, she's always watching. One of the reasons I kind of fell back from doing music videos is because the music wasn't appealing to me anymore. It started to become strip club music. And even though my grandmother wasn't a prude, like she was a gangster. My grandmother ran numbers and, you know, she was a gangster back in Virginia. Like, there's a story I could tell, but my sister probably be like, "Yo, don't say that." But my grandmother was a gangster, so it's not like she would disapprove of too much, but she would probably look at me as like, "Is it really what you want to do? Is that really what you want to represent you?" So that's why I'm very conscious of what I do. You know, very conscious of who I be with. Like, I'm very conscious of my respect towards women, because my grandmother's a woman. And if I'm gonna be disrespectful to a woman or anything like that, then I'm being disrespectful to my grandmother. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not the most righteous person in the world. I'm not trying to say that, but I really do give thought to things that I do, because if my grandmother wouldn't like it, then that would hurt me. You know, I would be upset. Like, if my grandmother could be here right now, she sees something that I did and it would upset her, that would break me. So I really try to uphold the standards that she set. And then my sisters, and then I have a niece that she looks up to me, and her brother, they look up to me. So it's like, a lot of times people don't have those type of things in their lives that they have to, you know, hold themselves in a certain way because it's gonna affect other people. So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does. It does. I mean, it does. Which video producers have had the most influence on your video making style?
Hype Williams. Hands down, Hype Williams.
Really? What is it about him?
He took chances. He didn't let what the normal was be his normal. He stepped out of the box from the first video he ever did. And he made everything look grand. He made everything look bigger than life. Like his name fit him. Believe the hype. He was the hype of the industry. And he gave me some of the best advice I've ever gotten from anybody in the industry. He said, B, at some point in this game, you got to do exactly what you think is right. If your gut is telling you, no matter what the label says, no matter what the artist says, no matter what anybody says, follow your gut. And he said, you may not work for that artist ever again or that label, but you'll work because you followed your gut. And if you believe in your gut will never let you down.
Tell us about that. Have you ever had a situation where the artist's vision conflicts with what you know to be right?
Yep.
And how does that work out?
It doesn't. Because like when we were talking earlier, if you did a poll on how many people watch the director's commentary on DVDs, hardly any. And I make that comparison because on the director's commentary, the director can tell you what went wrong or why this happened or why this looks like that. But nobody watches it because nobody cares. You have to get it right out the gate. Because if you don't get it right, it's all on you. Everybody, it's going to be your fault. Everything is your fault because you're the leader of the ship. You're the director of the game. It's you. Nobody wants to hear the director's commentary.
What equipment you work with? Do you have a preference? Like
now, it's so easy to well, I can't say it's easy. It's not difficult to do great work because the technology is so advanced. I came in the game when we were still using film. We was using 35mm film, Super 16, Super 35, and I think that's why I have a respect for the game and respect for the culture and respect for the art form. But now you can get a DSLR, Canon. Now they have the Luminex 4Ks, the Black Magics. You can make a movie cheaply, inexpensively. The problem is that because so many people like I hear it now, like with my photography and doing videos. Oh, my cousin got a 5D, so he can say, okay, let your cousin do it. Why'd you call me? Like, if your cousin got a 5D and he's so dope, let him do it. It's not gonna look like what I do. Because the thing is, people have the technology but don't know how to use it. Like, I've been trained on what lenses to use, on what filters to put on the lens to make it look a certain way. And it's just that, how to light something, how to get mood out of lighting. And just because your camera can go 65,000 ISO where it could be pitch black and you could still see an image because you went all the way up on an ISO, then your image is grainy. So a lot of people don't know the art of filmmaking. If you know the art of filmmaking, the technology just makes it easier.
You shoot for fashion designers and models and so on. What tips do you have for young photographers trying to break into the industry?
Learn your equipment. Learn how to shoot. Learn your equipment. Learn the aesthetics of light. Learn light.
Light is very important.
Learn the inverse square law. Learn the rule of thirds. Learn everything that is the aesthetics of lighting and filmmaking and photography. Once you learn it and you know it like the back of your hand, break every rule.
Do you work with a large team?
When I was doing music videos and commercials, yes. As I do photography now, no. And I kind of like it that way. Like I often use an assistant, my man Messiah, or my other partner John Flowers. But I like the smaller crews. I have my hair, makeup, wardrobe, and my assistant and the model, or the artist, whoever. And it's just that, like, I'm very much hands-on. I move the light. I set the light. You know, I'll use my assistant to give me a reading, and I'll set it, or I'll say, okay, twist it this way to angle it or whatever. But I'm very much hands-on.
You're hands-on.
It's really everything that you see in a photograph that I take is me.
What are some musts on a music video set?
Water. For me, water and pineapples.
Pineapples.
I love pineapples.
Wow.
Pineapples. I love pineapples. If you have water and pineapples on my set, you're doing a good job.
Here's your quote: "Life takes twists and turns. Just hold on tight to the steering wheel and follow the signs." Why does that resonate so much with you?
A few years ago, I was introduced to Paulo
Coelho.
Yeah, I was introduced to his book, The Alchemist, and to this day, I read that at least twice a year.
Twice a year,
because I always need a boost. And in the book, it says follow your legend, and pay attention to the signs.
Do you?
Yes. Like there are certain signs that pop up.
Yes.
That you need to pay attention to, because life is a roadmap. Life is a journey. Life is a highway. And if you want to get to California, you just can't be driving straight. You got to take a turn to go to I-10, then take another turn to get here. If you can't read and you can't see these signs, you're going to end up in Kalamazoo, and that's not where you want to be.
On a video set, right? Who's responsible for securing the actors, the dancers for a music video, and how difficult it is to get the right people?
Who's responsible? Your producer.
Okay.
So if I'm directing and you're the artist, you tell me, you give me some insight on what your vision is, I'll write a treatment, hand it to you. You're like, yes, I love this. So in my treatment, everything that I need to create this visual is in the treatment. So I sit down with my producer, and then he does the numbers to make sure the budget is right. Like you say, hey, I only have $2, so we have to do this within a $2 budget. And then we break the treatment down, and he goes out and secures everything I need. And that's why there are good producers and there are crappy producers. If you have a good network of people, then you can get anything done. If you don't have a good network of people,
that's why relationships are so important.
Yeah.
1998, a young man from Brooklyn, New York, headed for Tinseltown, Hollywood, California. Why did you make that move, Brian, and why then?
You want the real reason? or you want the Hollywood reason?
Any reason you want to give, anyone.
It's two reasons. Again, it goes back to science.
Science.
It goes back to science. I was hanging out with a few people that kind of started smothering. I was being smothered by them and their personality. And I had gotten a job to do a music video in LA, and a friend of mine lived out there. So after I did the job, I stayed for a couple of extra days, and I was like, man, I want to move out here because of the situation that was going on in New York. And I was like, I want to move out here. And then at that time, it started to get a little hectic for me with music videos. And one of the things about me in music videos, a lot of music video directors are great at performance videos where the artist is dancing, different sets and lighting and all that. That's performance video. I was really good at storytelling. And one of the hurdles that I had to try to overcome is the commissioners of videos, they would want to work with me, but I would always write a storyline, like a movie. And they're like, we don't want this. We want a performance. Have them dance. And then I was like, well, that's the regular. Let's do that.
Did they listen to you?
Nope. So a couple of them said, you know something, B, you should write scripts and go to California. So those were the signs. The sign was I was being smothered.
Yes.
And the sign was, you are a good writer. You should go to LA. So I followed the signs. And I moved out to LA, and it was hard for the first year and a half, but then I got my bearings and I had a great ride. It was
What
great.
surprised you the most about Tinseltown?
The bullshit.
The bullshit. How do you believe your experience in New York and the streets of Brooklyn helped you survive the challenges when you first arrived there?
Because I was a hustler. Like, from what I know about my dad, he was a numbers runner. He was a hustler. So I got that hustle. My sister is a hustler. I got that hustle. My mom's was a hustler. Even though she worked her jobs, she threw bus rides and fish fries and all of that. It's like, yo, we got to hustle. So when I went out to LA, when I moved out there, I was kind of familiar with it because I had done music videos out there. And when I wasn't directing, I was one of the better ADs in the business. Thank you, Mike Ellis. Appreciate your tutelage. And so I was out there enough. And when I went out there and worked, like, people noticed me. It's like, yo, what the freak? This dude is like a drill sergeant. But I got the job done. And I think that go-getiveness or whatever, if that's a word, that helped me maneuver. And then again, just me being humble. A lot of people said I was arrogant and, you know, but I'm confident.
Yeah.
Like, people take arrogance as confidence. People take confidence as arrogance.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just knew that I was good at what I was good at. When I was a PA, I was the damn best PA in the world. A producer could call me at 4:30 and say the call time is 5:30. I'd be there at 5 o'clock from Brooklyn to the Bronx. I'm exaggerating, but I was that good.
Right. You were that.
And I do things that I want to do. I don't do things that I have to do or that I'm locked in to do. When I didn't want to be a PA anymore, I stopped being a PA. I said, I'm a second AD. And I had to starve a little bit, but if you keep doing something that you say you're not, people are not going to take you for what you say you are.
Right. What is one of the most memorable videos you made?
Rosa Parks tribute. I got to meet Rosa Parks, and I did a video with Rosa Parks in it.
What is the name of it?
It's called Something Inside So Strong. Yolanda Adams is in it. Kirk Franklin is in it. Like, all of the top gospel singers were in it.
How you got that job, Brian?
The head of music video at Jive Records, Linda Simmons, was a fan of my work. She was a real big fan. She championed a lot of jobs for me, and she knew that I would do justice to that song and to Miss Parks. So she called me up and we made it happen. They actually recorded the song while we were filming. So it was that kind of experience. It was amazing. We were in Hollywood at one of the big studios, and Baron Claiborne was the DP. It was amazing. That's one of my favorite videos, if not the favorite.
What did Tinseltown, and we'll take a short break after this, right? What did Tinseltown teach you that New York didn't?
It's about the money.
About the money.
It's about the money.
Did you have to adjust your attitude, your way of thinking, your mentality when you got there? Was that difficult?
It was at first until a pimp told me something.
A pimp.
A literal pimp. Big car, rings, hoes. I used to go to this accountant to handle my business, and one of his clients was a pimp. So I was having a conversation with my accountant because we were cool, and the pimp was there. So we were all having a conversation, and I was kind of frustrated at how things were going at the time. And the pimp was listening. He said, "Listen, brother." He said, "You like a baseball player trying to play baseball on a football field." He said, "You gotta adapt to your situation." And at first I was like, "Man, I ain't one of your hoes. Who you talking to?" But it clicked. And what clicked about it, so say I'm a baseball player, right? And my skill at baseball is stealing bases. But now I get thrust on a football field. So I'm trying to go on a football field with a helmet and a bat. And they're like, you don't play football like that. What was your gift at baseball? Stealing bases. So now you're going to be a running back or a wide receiver because we're going to use your speed. So take the baseball helmet off, take the glove off, put these shoulder pads on, and catch the ball and run like hell. So it's like I had to adapt to LA. And once I adapted to it, things started to take off. And that was one of the biggest things that I learned. And I was like, "Thank you, pimp." Pimp, hooray.
I'm going to ask you this question, and we'll take a break. When we come back, I want you to answer it. While in LA, you wrote 3 scripts as a means to bridge the gap between music video directors and film and television directors. Was the transition from behind the camera to writing always a part of your career plans, and was it a difficult transition? All right.
That's a good question.
It was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was one week when I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.
We are back with Brian Luvar. Brian, the question was, you remember the question? It was, okay.
The way I transitioned, again, I liked telling stories. From a little kid, I wrote a book, so I was into storytelling. Going into music videos, I wrote stories, storyline treatments. So when I moved out to LA and was suggested to be a writer, it was unlike how it is now. Like at that time, music video directors were like the bastard childs of directing. Like, "Oh, you're a music video director, you can't direct the film." So there weren't many of us doing it. So it was suggested the only way that I can direct a movie or a film is if I wrote it. So I was like, okay, I guess I gotta write a script. So I never had written a script before. I hardly ever read any scripts. So a friend of mine suggested to go pick up some scripts and read them and get a feel, and then have a story. What do you want? What's the story you want to tell? So I had a story that I wanted to tell, how I really transitioned. Well, one of the reasons I wanted to bridge the gap is because most directors that are film directors come from schools, prestigious schools, and that was all they've done. Like Spielberg, he went to, I think, USC. and most of them went to film school. So their life experience was only film school, and that my life experience was real. I've been shot at, I've been tied up, I've been in what they call trap houses. You know, I've lived a really interesting life. So I said, well, I want to be able to bring that real to, you know, cinema. So I came up with a really, really great story. And the way I learned how to write and the way I transitioned is I had read a couple of scripts and I was like, oh, this is easy. I read a couple of books. I'm like, oh, I could do this. And I wrote a script and I sent it to what they call a script doctor. So a script doctor, he takes your script, he reads it, and then he, you know, gives you notes on it. And I've seen scripts notes like there's a red mark, hey, you know, build out the antagonist or build out the
protagonist.
Yeah, and da 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 da. When I got my script back, it looked like he cut his wrist and bled all over my script. The script doctor said, "You are a terrible writer. You should not give up your day job." And one of the things about me is I love challenges. When I saw, and I think I still have the letter somewhere in my stuff. When I saw, I was like, wow. I was kind of like, freak you. But it was a challenge. Like, even when I was a kid, if you said, hey, go kiss that girl in the mouth, I'd be like, how much you gonna give me? And I would go do it. It's like, and I know, like, if my old female friends from school and watch, it's like, yeah, he used to do that. He was a nasty little boy. So it was a challenge. I don't like to fail. So I was like, you're not gonna tell me I can't do something. So what I did, I was like, so I took, but what the person did, he did give me adequate notes. He was like, you know, okay, you're a terrible writer, but this is what you need to do to be a great writer. So I took his notes and I said, you know something? Because one of the things about me writing, my action lines would be 3 and 4 pages because I was very descriptive. Very, very descriptive. So my action lines would be like 3 and 4 pages long. He's like, are you crazy? So my scripts were like 300 pages. And your script is supposed to be between 90 and 120 pages. So I took those notes and I said, how can I do this and get my action lines right? So I came up with an idea. I went and pulled scripts of movies that I love, like Scarface, To Live and Die in LA. Like, I like action movies like that. So I pulled those scripts, rented the movies, put the movies on, cut the sound off, and I read the scripts while watching the movie. So when an action scene came up, like when the car is racing down the block and it does a skid and it turns left and it tumbles and it hits somebody, I knew that scene from knowing the movie. But when that scene came up, I read it. And that whole thing, the car screeched down the block, da 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 da, they put that in 3 to 4 lines. And it was as descriptive as when I wrote 4 pages. So that's how I learned to write scripts. Just by watching movies and reading the scripts and understanding the characters, understanding the plot, the arc, and the ending. So those are the keys of writing and storytelling. So once I got that right, then I was a better script writer, and I sent my scripts out to people and it's like, whoa. Like, there's a script that I have right now called American Dreamer that I just revisited, and it literally brought me to tears when I read it, because I was like, and not to blow my own horn, but to when I read that script, it was unbelievable that I wrote it. I couldn't believe that I wrote that because it was like so good. So now, you know, I'm revisiting that script, trying to get it out to a few people, see what we could do. There's another script that I have called The Courtship of Frida's Pain. To me, when I write, the most important thing, the first thing, is to come up with a title. Once I have a title, if I know the story, if I know what I want the story to be, then think. But once I get a title locked in my head, then I'm like, okay, this is it. This is what I'm going to write. So it's The Courtship of Frida's Pain, American Dreamer, Building 113, Murderers, and what's the other one? There's a couple of other ones. And my partner, Ben Morris, Sayer, he was very instrumental in me, you know, developing my writing craft and my writing skill.
Have you ever received a premise for a video that you absolutely refuse to shoot?
Yeah. Like, I get, not a lot anymore, but I get guys coming to me like, yo, I want to shoot this video. And my whole thing is, first, send me the music. Let me like the music. If I don't like the music, I can't put 110% into it. Like, I can't be as creative as I would like to be, because I don't like the music. So I'm not gonna write anything that I don't like the music. And then people get offended when you don't like their music. They're like, well,
is that so?
Yeah, it's like, I'm not really feeling a song like that, so I'm not interested. But my stuff ain't fire. I'm like, yeah, to somebody, but no, I don't like it. I'm not interested. Well, you gonna try to make me like your music? I'm very straightforward about certain things.
In the chat room, Karen G said, "Preach. Good things come to those who hustle."
Thank you, Karen.
What have you discovered about yourself while living in LA?
I discovered that I can really do whatever I want to do if I put if I commit to it.
If you commit.
Yeah, that has been kind of like a roadblock. Like, I commit, but sometimes I don't commit 100%. I'll commit 85 or 75, but sometimes I don't commit 100%. And it's like, if you really want something, you have to commit to it. Like, that's just it.
If you were to walk into a room or pass by a room and just happen to overhear your sister, the one that introduced you to
Dr. Rashawn.
Dr. Rashawn. If you were to hear Dr. Rashawn telling somebody about you, what do you think she would say? But before you do that, tell us a little bit about I mean, from the lens of a young man or a younger brother, tell us about your sister, Dr. Rashawn.
She is amazing. Like, because when I was a kid, my relationship with my mother wasn't 100%. You know, as a kid, you're like, oh, I wish I wasn't in this family. And I really did wish I would have been adopted. Like, yo, to have somebody adopt me. Like, I know everybody's not like this. It's not life for everybody. Let my life be cool. Put me somewhere else. But as I grew older, I realized if I would have been adopted, or my moms would have sent me somewhere else, I wouldn't have my great grandmother. I wouldn't have my sisters. I wouldn't have my niece. I wouldn't have my other niece that passed away. Like, I wouldn't have those women, those strong women that built me to be a man. You know what I'm saying? And it's I appreciate it, but it's messed up that women had to teach me to be a man, and a man couldn't teach me to be a man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what my sister would say about me, and we had this conversation the other day. She's like, she said I was amazing, and I was like, oh, you say that because you're my sister. And she's like, no, I watched you grow. I watched you mature. She said, I've watched you come into who you are, and you're amazing. And I was like, wow, okay.
If you
finish my website.
If you were asked, if you had to tell her something about how you feel towards her, what would you say?
I love her to death. I would drink gasoline, eat glass, throw a match in my mouth, and run through fire for her.
That's some love. That's some love. Who would you like to be in one of your films one day? 2 people. 3.
Who would I like to be in one of my films?
Yes.
Wow. It's funny because most of the lead characters are somehow based off of me.
Okay.
Yes, this is like.
Do you know anybody you would like to play you?
Nah, there's nobody smooth enough to play me. Denzel too old, and I already got his walk down, so I could do that. You know something? Honestly, I would Columbus Short, who got fired from Scandal.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like I met Columbus.
Oh yeah.
A couple of times.
Actually, yeah. Columbus got a kind of personality.
Yeah. He's cool. He's straightforward, and he has swagger within his craft.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? One thing about him is like there are some actors like Ice Cube.
Yeah.
When Ice Cube plays a role, Ice Cube is playing Doughboy, but at different stages of Doughboy's life. Doughboy from Boys in the Hood.
Yes.
So he doesn't come out of that character. Like when you watch Brad Pitt play a role, you don't see Brad Pitt. Right. You see the character.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that with Columbus Short. Like Columbus Short becomes the character. And when you see somebody become a character, you understand that they've mastered their craft. Mm-hmm. They mastered how to come out of themselves and be the character. Like Don Cheadle, I would say Don Cheadle too.
Oh, Don is amazing. He's amazing. At this point in your career, which do you consider yourself foremost? A black filmmaker or a filmmaker?
I'm a filmmaker.
Filmmaker.
I'm a filmmaker.
You seem comfortable with both video and film. Which do you prefer?
Film. I would say film now because I'm not a fan of a lot of the music now.
Oh, okay.
Because the music video world, because I come from being a DJ, so I come from music. Okay. Like I was a street DJ, rhyming in the park, and all of that in Brooklyn coming up. So that's where the love of music comes from. And then, you know, my mom used to play music in the house, and my older brother, he used to have the little red light parties in the basement, and I used to sneak down the stairs and steal the potato chips and run up the stairs. But I come from music, so the love of music has always been there. And then my artistry, as, you know, being able to draw and be visual, that's what really made me really like music videos, because it was something that I could do that I didn't really have to try to do.
That's right. Wow.
But filmmaking, I'm still grasping, and I'm gonna make it. It's gonna happen. My first film.
I believe that.
My first film. Once I do my first film, I'm like, okay, I've achieved that goal.
What is one thing you discovered about filmmaking that surprised you about the craft?
That it's really hard work. It's really hard work, and as the director, and not taking anything away from producers, but as a director, it all falls on you. You're the leader of the ship. Like when the ship is going down, you can't just jump off and get in a lifeboat. You have to figure a way to get that ship to shore and get those people off. You have to figure a way to deliver. Like, there have been times when I was on set and it got crazy hectic. Like, I was screaming, and I never scream. And I had to shut the set down. It's like, everybody, take 10. And I had to walk away and gather myself, because I can't crumble. Because if you crumble in front of your team, your team won't respect you. And being a director, you have to be respected, because if you're saying do this and a person doesn't respect you, they're not going to do it, and then it's going to look bad on you. So you have to gain these people's confidence and their trust, and have them know that you can deliver exactly what you say.
In any situation, no matter how much you master your craft, there's usually some stragglers or bad apples. Have you ever had to deal with someone who absolutely refused to do what you want to do, what you want them to do?
Not absolutely refused, because I have an intimidating presence.
Yes.
So people, they kind of feel like if they say no to me in my face, I'm gonna smack them. And you know, if I wasn't grounded, I'd smack them.
If you weren't grounded, right?
But there have been people that I got into a tug of war with.
Yes.
And I learned to, again, everybody take 5.
Okay.
And I walk that person away. Because one thing that I've learned, people who are against you or what we call haters, they love to make their hate the spectacle. And you're the key player in the spectacle. So they're going to say things to piss you off to get a response from you. It's like with a girlfriend. Mm-hmm. If a girlfriend is texting you, and you don't respond to her, she gets madder and madder. But when you respond to her, she has you now.
Yes.
So when you don't respond to their
hate
and antagonizing you, and you say, okay, you know something? Pull them to the side, and I'll pull people to the side and say, listen, you're not going to have a show on my account. So either you do what I asked you to do, or you can leave. Because they want that confrontation, because it makes their what they're trying to accomplish seem real. So it's like you pull them to the side, you tell them what you want. If they can't do it, it's like pack your bags now. Because now there's no audience. There's no audience. I take the audience away from them. And that takes away a lot of their power.
Brian, tell us about your web series.
Liza Out Loud. Okay. The web series is called LOL, which is an acronym for Liza Out Loud. Mm. And basically, it was an idea that I had when I moved back to New York. I had an idea to do a television series. Uh-huh. And it was actually based on my life, moving from New York to LA, and then moving back to New York and restarting my life. Mm-hmm. Within doing the research about the project and talking to, you know, heads at studios and whatever, I found out that shows about men don't sell unless it's unless it's something about sports. You can't sell a lot of ad time for shows about men. You can sell ad time for shows about women, families, kids, but think about how many shows are on the air that it's about men, just strictly men. Wow. And if they do get picked up, they don't last for a long time. So I learned that, and again, television in Hollywood is all about money, revenue. So once I got that information, I said, okay, what can I do with this? Because it was a great idea. I said, okay, I'll make it all about women and make the lead character based on me, but she's a female. Mm-hmm. So I wrote the script, went through some changes, and I had to rewrite it a few times because I was still writing it from a man's voice. Mm-hmm. So I had to get involved with some women and get the lead character to have more of a female's voice. Mm-hmm. And we shot it on $2,000, a Metro card, and an EBT card.
Are you serious?
Yep. $2,000, a Metro card, and an EBT card.
And how long this lasted for?
We shot for, I think, 3 days. And then I edited everything. And I had a few producers that said they could do certain things, but didn't deliver. So I wanted to keep it going. But one of the biggest things about doing production, independent production, there's a million outlets now. You have internet. You can put your show on the internet and get paid. There's a million cable stations. Everybody's looking for content, but they don't want to pay to produce the content. So I ran into the problem of I didn't have money to finance my production. So I was trying to find investors and whatever. So I had to shut down and I had to stop production. But lo and behold, for everybody that loved the series, that watched it, that wanted to see it continue, I am back in production. I am meeting with some people this week to talk about retooling the script and recasting and getting that show out there, because it's a positive show. It's not what we see black women on TV now. It's all reality and black women disrespecting black women, and it's the lowest common denominator. And again, because I was raised by women, like my mother used to have dinner parties, and then my mother was very much into entertaining, and she had a lot of girlfriends. I've never seen a woman throw a drink in another woman's face ever. I've never seen women talk so badly about their so-called friends ever. And I was raised by women. I hung out most of my teenage life with women. Like, people used to say, oh, black is gay. I'm like, because I don't want to play football, I want to be around the chicks. I like girls, so y'all go and play basketball all day and be sweaty. I'm gonna hang out with the girls, and you know. So I've never really seen the type of behavior that women are showcasing on television now ever. So I want to go back to, I grew up on, and I know I'm dating myself now, I grew up on shows like Mary Tyler Moore, strong independent woman doing her thing, but had instances with that were funny, instances that were heartwarming. Ally McBeal, like those kind of shows. I grew up watching those kind of shows of really great women. Julia from the black perspective, things like that. Even Claudine. It was a hard time, but there was a family that loved each other, and they went through things. But Claudine wasn't on the bus cursing her maid friends out. So I want to create I'm creating a show that takes it back to that deals with the friendships, the loves, the laughter, the heartache, the hardship of black women in Brooklyn.
Where this is for television?
Well, yeah, that's the end game. That's the end game.
If you had to could do a photo shoot with anywhere in the world, who would you want? And pick someone, right? Who would you want to do this photo shoot with?
My sister.
Your sister. And this is Dr. What's
Dr. Rashawn.
Dr. Rashawn.
I would want to do it in Africa because she loves Africa. New Orleans and Eastern Europe, because Eastern Europe is so far away from who she is. So the contrast would be amazing.
That'd be dramatic.
Yeah.
I like that.
I just love the architecture in Eastern Europe.
What is one film project you're craving to make?
The Courtship of Frida Payne.
The Courtship of
Frida's Payne.
Frida's Payne.
Yeah.
Who still inspires you today?
Who inspires me? My sister.
My sister. With so many years of experience, what still surprises you about photography?
Wait, let me go back. There's a couple people that inspire me. It just clicked in my head. The three main people that inspire me, one is my sister. The second one is my niece, because she just started her own business.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What is the business about?
She's a massage therapist, and she's opening her own business, massage therapy business, and she's an esthetician. So she's doing skincare, the whole gamut of massages, and she's amazing. That's my little.
Awesome.
That's my little.
What's her name?
Ebony.
Ebony
Ramirez.
Ramirez.
And my nephew. My nephew inspires me because he reminds me of me. Like this dude, he when he was growing up and I was living in LA, and even before that, when I was in New York and he was born, I would take him and his sister on meetings, business meetings with me. Like I was working with Fab Five Freddy, but I was also trying to get my foot in the business as an actor and everything. So I would take them both. She would be walking and he would be in a stroller, and I would go to business meetings and I would have them wait in the waiting area, and the receptionist be like, "Oh," I'm like, "You don't have to worry about them. She's going to take care of him, and she knows how to take care of herself." And then when I come out of the meeting, the receptionist be like, "Oh my God, your children are so well behaved." It's like, what did you expect?
Yeah.
What did you expect? So my nephew, he's an adventurer, and make this real brief. He figured out how to learn Chinese. Because he came out of nowhere. He's like, "Uncle, I'm going to China to teach English." I was like, "China?" I said, "You know Chinese?" He's like, "Yeah, every day after work, I would go to the library and use like Rosetta Stone to learn Chinese." So he learned Chinese, got a job as an au pair in China, and moved to China. Now he just opened a barbershop in China to give Chinese people haircuts.
Oh, that's incredible, man. Wow, that's a beautiful story.
And one day I read on Facebook, he had written, a friend at his job had asked, "Why do you work so much? Why do you work so hard?" And his response was, "Because my uncle said it's not cool to be broke."
Oh man, that's awesome, man.
So it's like when you look back and you see that you've made a positive influence or impact on people, it makes you feel good. So those are the three people that are most influenced.
Time is on us, and I want to. There's some questions I want to ask you. I'm going to do them rapid fire.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. How does spirituality affect your work?
It affects me. It's my everyday life. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. I don't really conform to organized religion, but I believe that there is a God.
Yes.
I believe that Jesus walked the earth, and I believe that the universe conspires to give you what you want. To make it short and sweet for you.
What do you hope your audience comes away with after watching one of your videos or films?
That there is hope in the world. And you can laugh at anything and get back on that horse.
Do you try to push yourself in new directions with each piece, with each video, each film?
I try to, I don't say try because try is a failing word. I make the attempt to do something that I've never done before, or use something that I've never used before, or edit a way I've never, like every piece has to be a step further in my creativity, my creative process.
What is one thing about you that most people do not know that might surprise them?
I'm secretly insecure. Now don't y'all women out there try to use that against me.
If in your dream film, well, I think you answered this question already, it would be you. If you could go back in time, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Do not leave California in 1993.
When you think back on the long arc of your photography, videography, and your film career, what are you most proud of?
That I survived. That I'm still relevant.
Finish off this sentence. I look forward to Sunday evenings too.
Sit back and watch Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, you love that too?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I haven't seen it in a while, but I love it too.
Very well. I love HBO shows because they're very well written.
Yes.
And the production on them. Like if I can get my shows on HBO, if I could get Liza, when I get Liza Out Loud on HBO, I've accomplished.
That's better.
I've accomplished.
And the last question I ask all my guests: what makes you laugh out loud?
Watching cartoons and dancing in my underwear in my living room.
You got wait, hold on. Repeat this for all the ladies that know you, Brian. you have to watch cartoons when you're on the way. Is that what you're saying?
I love watching cartoons while on the way.
And then you dance.
I did. I'm a big kid at heart. It's like,
but it's good. I always believe that it is important to never lose our child, never lose that inner child. I think that's where our greatest creativity is. That's where our greatest power and strength lies, in the connecting with that inner child. But I wanna thank you so much for coming, Brian.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime.
Thank you for having me.
Anything surprised you about CWS?
No. Like when I first met you, you were very professional, very kind. Like just to look in your face, I was like, I could rock with him. Like I'm very much a visual person. It's like I'm very. I think that's one of the gifts my grandmother gave me, to be intuitive about people.
Yes.
It's like there's a lot of people I can look at and get a vibe from, and I just pull away from them. There's a lot of people that I look at and get a vibe from, and I embrace them.
Yes.
So just the way you approached me, and you were diligent, but you weren't pushy. Like I hate pushy people. I'm like, oh, you invade my space, get away from me. But you were diligent about it. You were respectful of my time, and I just respected how you went about things. And I looked you up. I said, okay, he legit.
Too legit to quit, right?
He legit.
But thanks for coming, man. I really, really appreciate that.
Cool.
And it was just a wonderful experience.
I had a great time. I always have a great time when I come here. There was 1 week when I came here 3 times.
Very simple, good food, good friends, amazing staff. I can't complain.